There is a trend in the dating world today
Oh dear.
that I was just made aware of.
Oh boy.
And I'm not happy about it, Tom. I'm not happy
There we
about
go.
it.
Ring the alarm, everyone.
Liz isn't happy with
Liz
something.
isn't happy.
Wow. The trend is of calling yourselves exclusive but not saying boyfriend or girlfriend. There's 2 extra steps that I didn't have back when I was still dating people.
Okay. Clarification is demanded on this. So 2 people say, hey,
Yeah.
let's...
I had a friend say to me the other day, it came about because I was talking to one of my girlfriends and I said, oh my God, so have you got a boyfriend? She goes, well, yeah, we're exclusive. And I said, oh, so he's your boyfriend? And she's like, no, but we're exclusive.
Right.
And I was like, is there a difference? She's like, oh yeah, it's like being engaged to be engaged. Like it's you're not fucking other people, but you're not committed enough to want to call each other boyfriend or girlfriend yet. And I'm not about that. I think it's horse shit.
Yeah, it's a step. It's a needless step.
I've got my toes in the water, but I'm also firmly on dry land.
Yeah.
This bullshit. Get in the pool.
Betwixt singlehood and dating someone, you're just on the.
Why do you think people do it though?
Oh, why do people do any sort of wanky self-attention, attention grabbing seeking?
Is it
I
so
don't
you can
know.
be
I
like,
don't know. I have no idea.
I'm exclusive with you, but if I decide to fuck somebody else, you were never my girlfriend. Notice how I'm gendering this automatically, that it's the guy that's fucking up?
Ding, ding, ding. I suppose that's it.
Of course, with all of those dreams, I started buying up magazines, wedding magazines, cutting out all of the dresses that I wanted, picking out bouquets and things like that. I put together collages.
Were you engaged at this point? Or
no, I was not.
Okay.
No, I was just
All right,
20 and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No judgment.
That's right. I judge myself for the both of us. Yeah. And then not long after that, my dad decided that he didn't like his little girl living in sin. And so he was going to kind of give us a bit of a nudge. And he had seen this wedding venue that he had really liked.
Oh, man.
And that's my dad. He's, bless his little soul. He's, very much like that. So he said, well, I've met with the
Sorry, my jaw just hit the floor.
Yes.
Yep.
May I briefly inquire how long you and your Tristan?
Less than a year.
Less than a year. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, less than a year. We were very serious about each other, in fairness, but it's one thing to talk about it and to go, this is somewhere in our future. I'm happy with
and to meet with.
And then to meet with an event coordinator. Yeah.
It is amusing. I'll give it that. It is amusing.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, and then he had left for work, and Dad was like, you know, I've met with this event coordinator. She's really good, and this venue's lovely. Maybe we could go have a meeting with her today.
Today?
Come on. Let's see some enthusiasm.
And you could pretend you're engaged. And just make up a date, and we'll say the date got changed around later on.
Right. Yeah. We could do those
Mayhaps
things.
we could.
We could go to a wedding planner
is a
and say
possibility.
I'm engaged, and we're going to book
Without
this
telling
venue.
the person that I'm dating at all.
We could do all of these things, Father. You're right.
Yes. So he's like, oh, you've got that ring. So I had a ring that was given to me by my great grandmother.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful garnet ring.
Got the ring?
And he said, put it on the other hand. So I did, because I was 20 and you must obey your father. So me and Mum and Dad, we went down to this wedding venue, and we told the event coordinator, who was a lovely lady, in fairness, like she was just so lovely, and she went along with everything we said.
You're a good actress.
Yeah. And showed us all around and said, I can email you all of these links and the packages and everything like that. And I loved the venue. And yeah, so I fell in love with the venue, and the idea of getting married just seemed that much closer. And then Tris came home that afternoon.
Yes.
And was very surprised when I told him what had happened.
And by this point, you've kind of bought the vision, right? Because you've seen initially, you're like, this is weird. I'm not going to go. But
I
then
took
you see
out the
venue.
mortgage on the vision.
It's so hard to explain, but for me, I realized I did a lot of reading up and research on the idea of compulsory heterosexuality and the way that it's thrust upon women. And we are told basically to seek out and to feel really validated by male approval, specifically, sexual validation, being sexually appealing to men. And, without going into too much detail, I didn't have a sort of proper father figure growing up. So I did always feel it was like this bottomless pit with needing male validation, and sex did seem to always be the way, the main, most powerful way to get that. But I realized when I was having completely conscious, sober sex with women, the kind of sex that I was super present for, emotionally,
like
and
mindful sex. Yeah.
Mindful sex, that what I had thought was what sex was supposed to feel like and what was pleasurable sex and what was hot sex and all of this that I'd been having all of these years with men was not. It was like I just realized that I'd been living in the dark my whole life, and someone finally switched on the light and I could see the color. I was like, wait a minute, this is what sex is supposed to feel like. It's felt nothing like this for me. I realized that I guess almost been sort of like dissociating a little bit during sex. And then I think because of my job, and I write and talk about sex so much, and, I tell these entertaining stories, that I had sort of been leaning more and more into feeling like I was playing this role, and I didn't want to sort of break with the character that I'd created of this completely sex-crazed, boy-crazed kind of girl. And so, I was always talking about like all this hot sex I was having with men and how I just needed to get the D or whatever. But yeah, I think a lot of it was tied up in that whole compulsory heterosexuality, that idea that I felt that the best thing I could do was just find a man to complete me and to validate me. And the feelings of excitement that I got when I thought that I was falling for a guy, feeling sexually attracted to a guy, I realized that those feelings of excitement were feelings of excitement that a man wanted me, because I realized that all the, the relationships and stuff I'd had with men were based off a man showing that he was attracted to me, showing that he was interested in me, and then me being completely thrilled by that, and then feeling a sense that I also was into him.
So it was almost like the sense of worthiness that you got from men telling you that they wanted you made you attracted to them because you felt worthy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was basically like addicted to it. I would have done anything sexually. I would have been the kinkiest, most crazy girl in the bedroom. I would have been the girl who said no to nothing. And I was the girl who said I would never say no to anything. I'd be like, yep, whatever you want, I will do it. I will be the freakiest girl that you've ever had sex with, because that seemed to result in men really wanting me, even though it was such a superficial want, because it's obviously they're, wanting to have sex with you, not necessarily wanting falling in love with you or that sort of thing.
It was very emotionally abusive, verbally, but he also was physically abusive a few times. But it's just amazing that, you get to that, you're like, it's not that bad. Like, you almost have to tell yourself that so you can stay there. And I think it's even still hard for me to talk about it, because for that long, when you've been protecting someone, because you don't want people to think badly about them, but also because you're embarrassed that you're in that situation and you're choosing to stay in it. I think that people, and I know I did it myself, where you'd see the news and you'd be like, why did she stay with him? Like, I don't understand. And then like now I realize that was me. I was that person.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it just escalated from like, I guess coming to the end, there were a few really horrible things that happened, and the funny thing is that the nail in the coffin wasn't even close to the worst. It just was just a moment. We probably should have at least broken up 2 years before we did, but we went on a cruise 2 years before we actually separated. It was not what I wanted to do, but he really wanted to go on it. So we went on this cruise, and the kids had a great time, but towards the end, it was the last night, and we went out for drinks. Everyone goes out for drinks on the last night, and you've got to put all your cases outside the room. And we left the kids back in the room, with the telly and food and everything. And one of us was going back and checking on them. It was just sort of down the hallway. And so we were sort of doing that like for a few hours. And I turned around and we got chatting to some other people like you do on a cruise, It's just really like, and I turned around at one point and he was just gone. And I assumed that he must have gone back to check on the kids. And so I kept chatting and, a couple of people were like, oh, where's he gone? And I'm like, oh, he must have gone back to check on the kids. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. And he didn't come back. And so this guy that was sitting beside me said, oh, do you want me to get you a drink while while you're waiting for him to come back? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like, all right then. And next thing I know, like he brought me the drink back. And next thing I know, Justin's over his shoulder, like, screaming, and the music was quite loud where we were, and we were sort of near the door, but screaming. He's like, you better fuck off, mate. And this guy his face he just disappeared into the crowd, and he's just yelling at me, and I'm like, what's wrong? What are you doing? And he's like, you've got to come back to the room with me right now. And I'm like, I know the kids are back there, and I'm like, I'm not going back to the room with you like this. You need to calm down, and then I'll come back to the room with you. And a sip of water. My mouth's getting dry.
That's all right.
And he's like, you're coming back with me now. And I'm like, just calm down. And he grabbed me by the arm and pulled me. And there was a few stairs down and I lost my balance. And he just dragged me like up those, those long carpeted hallways. Yep. And I was calling out. I was like, you're hurting me. Please stop, please stop. And he kept dragging me. You're coming back to the room. And he rounded a corner and there was a maid out in the hallway with a trolley. And he stopped then and she called security. And they came, and at that point, I just wanted to get back to the room to my kids. And I just wanted to get off that fucking boat. And the head of security was actually a woman. And she came up to me and she's like, do you want to press charges? And I was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And we'd had sort of episodes like that before, but not in such a public place.
Yeah, sure.
Like no one else had really been involved before. And so she went and looked at the security footage. She said I could have pressed charges if I wanted to, but I was like, he just dragged me up the hallway. It's just amazing where your brain goes to. Like
you just go, it was just.
Yeah.
And so they took him away for the night because he was quite drunk. They took him away to cool down somewhere else. And the next morning we were all getting off the boat at like 6 a.m. or something. But I just remember like going back to the room and, just the kids putting them to sleep and just being awake all night, lying there looking at the roof, just waiting for it to get light so I could get off that boat, and just being embarrassed that other people had seen it and then being worried for him that they might go to the police or that the footage was out there.
I feel so sad for you that you weren't worried for you, Luce.
Yeah, that's what I was replaying in my mind over and over again.
Well, it just making it okay for everyone, like especially the kids. Like I didn't want that to be their memory. Like they didn't see any of it, and I just didn't want, I just didn't want that to be a part of
course,
ruining the cruise for them. Anyway, we got home and he was so apologetic. I remember I sat in my room for like 2 days and I didn't know what to do. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that to my beautiful wife. And, I'll never do it again. And this year's going to be different. It was always, every year it was going to be different. And every year it would be better for a little bit and then it would just get worse again. And I didn't realise it at the time, but he'd actually taken all the skin off one of my hips. which took a long, it was like massive carpet burn basically.
Imagine.
It took a long time to heal. And there was a scar there for a long time too. So